This Kirblog topic was suggested by Kurilu Stromboli. If you'd like to suggest topics for videos like these, and if you want to hear me record them in my community Discord server before they release, consider supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/Kirbifer. This Kirblog is all about my favorite anime songs, or at least just 10 of them that I really enjoy. If you don't get that reference, that's by Ayumi Hamasaki from the Every Anime Opening Ever video from a million years ago on early YouTube. So this is a fun one. I was actually surprised that I'd never done this before, and I'm setting a little bit of ground rules for this. So these are going to not necessarily be in order from like least favorite to most favorite. I'm just putting them in chronological order. Because I don't think that I actually have like an all-time favorite of all of these. And this is also very offhanded, because I know there's probably going to be other ones that I'm going to think of like the day after I release this, where I'm like, oh my god, I love that song. How did I not think of that show? You know, there's a lot of specific, you know, memories and feelings that some of these come to. They're also not, they're not necessarily tied to the quality of the opening animation itself. This is specifically just the songs. Just the songs themselves, and separating from the production of the opening. There's that would require a whole like much more, you know, in-depth analysis and everything. And you know, but for the most part, these are all from shows that I have seen. Typically shows that I've seen in full, barring a couple of exceptions here and there, but these are 10, you know, the top 10 that I could offhandedly think of my favorite anime songs that happen to be the openings of the respective animes that they come from, that I still very much enjoy to this day. Some of them date back, you know, 25 years ago when I first started listening to a lot of anime music and stuff, and some that are from more recent years and stuff, and they're all fantastic. I love them. And thank you also to my Discord server who recommended a bunch of other shows, reminded me of different ones, because I tried to think of as many as I could and hopefully not leave out anything. An obvious thing that I can't believe I'm looking at, and there's not a One Piece song on here, which it feels like a sin to me, because One Piece is one of my favorite shows, and there's so many great openings in that, but I don't think that they're necessarily in my top 10 of all time ever when I think of like, you know, my absolute favorites. Even though there are a lot of amazing ones. I've been singing All of Us, the newest one as of this video, the Egghead Island opening. Never skip that. But and I'm going to play some snippets of the songs in the background. Hopefully they'll be low enough volume that they won't get this horribly demonetized or taken down, so bear with me. But so, chronological order. Number 1, this is probably not going to come to any surprise, but of course, Chala Head Chala from Dragon Ball Z by Hironobu Kageyama. So, quick little story about this song. The first exposure that I had to Chala Head Chala was actually from the Spanish dub, Dragon Ball Z, on Telemundo. They used to play the Spanish dub, specifically the Latin American Spanish dub. Very highly beloved by DBZ fans. That was my first exposure to this song, and for many years I tried searching for, or not many years, probably what was more like a single year, I tried searching for it online. This would have been like late 90s, maybe early 2000s, I don't quite remember, but I was searching, Dragon Ball Z Spanish opening song, not realizing that it was the Japanese opening song. And the whole time that I was here, because they kept this lyric from the Japanese, the Chala, Head Chala, which is a pun on Het Chala, which is something akin to like, it doesn't matter, you know, don't worry about it, that kind of, you know, sort of phrase. And then finally I came across a site that had a bunch of Dragon Ball Z MIDIs, and I saw in big bold letters Chala Head Chala, and I'm like, wait, is that what they're saying in the chorus? Is that what I've been hearing? I played it, and sure enough, there it was. So that was still back when I was collecting MIDIs, and it was not so easy to get, you know, high-quality MP3s of music on the internet necessarily. This was before I was using, you know, LimeWire. This was probably in the days of Kazaa, and I did not want to infect my computer with 700 viruses. So, but yeah, and then throughout the course of I think probably late elementary school, maybe early middle school, I spent every morning on my way to my bus stop, like literally from the moment that I ran out of my house, down that long giant hill that I lived up on, going around the corner and then running up a giant hill to get to my bus stop. I would sing the misheard Spanish lyrics of this song in my head for what felt like forever. And I imagined my own, Adventures of Chris Niosi iteration of the theme song. This is like the primordial version of Balancing Act, for those of you who may be thinking that. It certainly was. But, yeah, I mean, as far back as that, Dragon Ball was just already kind of part of my my DNA, and I was starting to slowly learn more about the Japanese version that I was mostly missing out on until I started, getting some of the DVDs and inspecting, in on some of that stuff and everything. But still love this song. I do also love We Gotta Power. I really, really love that song, and I almost put that as my DBZ answer for this list over Chala Head Chala, but the fact that it's lasted and has basically become like the theme of Dragon Ball as of late, like it's been referenced in all the movies and in Super, and it sounds like it's kind of being referenced in some of the Daima music as well, as Daima's about to come out very soon. It's just it's like the identity of Dragon Ball. But I love so many other Dragon Ball songs. I even love the GT songs. I have a soft spot for all those. But Chala Head Chala, all the way, still, tremendously important to me. And of course, another series that I was way into around that exact same time was Pokemon. And gotta go with OK by Rika Matsumoto from the Gold and Silver series of the Pokemon anime. So I've talked about this before, probably throughout many of my Pokecember Kirblogs, but in my early days of being on the internet and going to forums, going to the TV Tome forums, and learning a little bit more about the Japanese version of Pokemon, or Pocket Monsters, of course, as the anime has always been called, I came across an early website that had like really low quality, like WMV files of the Japanese openings that had been released up until that point. This is so long ago that it was when Pokemon Advance was new, or as they called it, Pocket Monster Advance Adventure. So that was the newest at the time. And so I was listening to all the Japanese opening themes, recognizing some of them, because Mezase Pokemon Master had been referenced in Pokemon Pinball as one of the catching themes, and Advanced Adventure was kind of an instrumental, had an instrumental version of it. I love Ready Go from the 5th season. That was like the 3rd Gold and Silver opening. Ready Go is also very, very special to me. I'm a big fan of that one, but there's a particular reason why I love OK, and that is because I realized that the show, that the dub, for all that time, and I didn't realize it until I think after a couple listens, that when they had left over some of the Japanese background music, I recognized the chorus of OK because there was an instrumental version of it that was used as background music. The da na 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 da na 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 na, but way sped up. And I thought that was really cool. I was like, oh, they have like this orchestral, like kick-ass sounding version, of what turned out to be the Japanese song. This was also, of course, as I was realizing that Rika Matsumoto, who is the Japanese voice of Satoshi, or Ash as we know him, is the performer of almost all of the Japanese opening themes for Pokemon for 25 years at this point. And I actually got to see her perform live, I mentioned before, when I went to see the Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution Japanese sub-screening at Anime Expo 2019, I think it was, and she was up there performing Mezase Pokemon Master, so that was pretty sick to me. But yeah, this was definitely among those early days of just kind of, collecting. This is where I began to collect MP3s songs in general off of the internet, I had a little bit more accessibility to be able to do that. Although I think that probably my way of listening to it was literally just replaying that WMV crappy low quality file that I had of the opening animation itself, and of course seeing mostly shots of the animation that I recognized from It's a Whole New World We Live In, but like kind of recycled around and rearranged and, you know, split other stuff in there. So love this song, love the instrumental version of it as well. And of course, yet again, another show. This was just after the Pokemon Dragon Ball kind of twofold hit that had happened. But next one, Shuffle from Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters by Masami Okui. So, quite similarly, but under a different sort of circumstance, I was beginning to learn a lot more about the Japanese version of Yu-Gi-Oh! That I was really seriously missing out on. Regrettably, I have, you know, outed myself about this before. I was collecting bootleg fan subbed. I can't even say fan subbed because they were not of. Most fan subs are of decent quality translation-wise. These were definitely not. You know. But they were box sets of the Japanese version of Yu-Gi-Oh! With very, very crappy, very badly translated subtitles. I had a huge chunk of the show, you know, which I have now since gone and watched them legally on Crunchyroll because they were putting them up all properly translated, so I was able to really see them for the first time a few years ago. Yeah, so I started listening to all of the Japanese openings as I went through the course of the show. There's 5 of them for the Duel Monsters series, which of course is the Gen 1, not the Season 0 show, but the Gen 1, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Show that we grew up with, that we had, that was on Kids WB. And I gotta say, this is another tough pick because, except for Wild Drive, which I really, really don't like because it sounds extremely annoying to me. That's the only one of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Japanese openings that I do not care for. But Voice, Shuffle, Warriors, and oh god, I'm forgetting the name of the final one. It's the for the 5th season, when they go to Egypt and everything. Overlap. I love all of those. They're fantastic, but Shuffle is just sick. Like, there's something like supremely epic about it, and honestly, most of them have a very like epic, like, you know, really, really melodramatic, serious kind of feel to them. This one hits the melodrama seriousness, but at the same time is like fun and positive and kind of badass in that sense. This is one I will also admit that the opening animation itself, kind of in tandem with it, kind of aids it, because I think it's a very, very cool looking opening too. Yeah, the vocals are fantastic. The Masami Okui, who I don't know if I'm familiar with any of her other work from any other stuff, if she has or has not done any other anime openings before. But yeah, this one is just so cool. The English that's incorporated into with "Never lose, da 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 da, just like hearts." It's not super awkward because sometimes the inclusion of English in some of these openings can be a little funky, but honestly, this one I think works very, very well. It's just super, super cool, very stylish. Not too cheesy, but just cheesy enough. It strikes this perfect kind of balance that encapsulates the feel of original Yu-Gi-Oh! For me very, very well. Kind of a step up on the coolness factor. And, oh boy, I'm so scared of the demonetization about to happen in a minute. But, so I was getting big into Gundam Seed, also around the same time. I was collecting the DVDs of the uncut episodes as they were airing on Cartoon Network, and where they would only play the first opening. This is another series where I love literally all 5, I think it was 5, of the opening themes to Mobile Suit Gundam Seed. As they were coming out and everything. But I believe that the first opening, which the name of it is escaping me, but the song by TM Revolution, that was the only one that they played for the broadcast, like edited TV version of Gundam Seed. They just play a little snippet of that. Fun fact, a more recent fun fact, whenever I had to go in for like scans, I forget the term of it because I'm losing my mind right now, but when you'd have to go into like the little coffin and they'd put you in and do a scan of your spine or your back or whatever, I don't know why the abbreviation of that is escaping me. I think it's late. Sorry. But lately, whenever I have to go in to do those, I just listen to, or in my head, I just kind of play the 5 Gundam Seed and then some of the Gundam Seed Destiny openings kind of like back to back in my head, because I remember the way that they go all like so well, and they take up a fair bit of time. But Believe in particular, much like what I said about Shuffle with Yu-Gi-Oh!, this one I think just kind of strikes the perfect balance of it's like serious and dire and fits the tone, but it's also like positive and uplifting and kind of gets you pumped and badass, and you feel kind of badass out of it. Same thing again, the actual opening animation to go with it, I think is super, super cool. And it hit me at just kind of the right moment that at the time when I was still working on TV Tome Adventures, it seemed so out of place that when I was doing the opening animations for TTA, which I did 4 of them, including one for the 4th season that never actually got made, I went ahead and I used Believe as the opening for the Tome Season 4 kind of teaser opening thing that I did. And it was literally just because I was listening to it at the time, like, for at least a couple years by that point, because Gundam Seed, I think, had long since finished by that time. And it was just like, it hit that perfect kind of like, okay, a factor about a lot of these songs also is that they inspire me to think about like imagining openings for a lot of my own like stories and things, which is ironic because now, as I have gotten the chance to do this, like with Tome and everything, I always think about, now I would just get an original song done, obviously. But, when you're a kid and you're, creative and you want to make your own anime someday, when you grow up, that stereotypical kind of thought process that we all have at that age. There's always the sense of like, oh, I want this opening song from this anime that it is already the opening theme to. You just can't help but fantasize a little bit. And so some of these songs, I've told a story about Chala Headchala was like my IRL role-playing, what became Balancing Act in my actual life. Chala Headchala was kind of the opening to that for a few years, and then Believe kind of inspired me in that sense when I was thinking about if I was going to continue doing TTA at the time, which unfortunately I did not. And funnily enough, I actually even have, and I played it at the end of that live stream where I did the big Q&A about Season 4, I went ahead and I played a instrumental like fan arrangement that a friend of mine at the time made for me, because I thought I might be able to use that in Season 4. That never came to be, but that's still one that I remember very fondly from back in the day. The next one is quite unusual. It is The Meaning of Truth by Hero X from the F-Zero Legend of the Falcon, or F-Zero GP Legend as it was known in the US. When 4Kids did the show. This was one, I can't quite remember where I found this. I want to say that this was by the time that, this definitely would have been by the time that YouTube was around. So maybe I found it off of just like, looking up, what is the Japanese opening like or whatever. Or if I maybe might have found it on like some site that uploaded, MP3s of just every single anime opening you could possibly imagine at that time. But I wish I could go back and like quite remember like how I came across this one, but for many years I have always looked back fondly and like remembered like, this is such an amazing song, and it feels so like all-encompassing. That's another quality that I really love about certain anime songs, is that sometimes they feel like they're like the theme song to like an entire like universe, an entire life. Like there's like, that's what I mean when I say all-encompassing. Like they kind of like that. While some shows fulfill kind of a different sort of cool thing, where like if they have multiple seasons and they have multiple openings to go with them, sometimes there's shows, there's songs that feel like, this is like a first season kind of beginning, setting the tone kind of opening theme, and then there's other songs that are like, this definitely feels like a second season, kind of one, which, again, Shuffle absolutely feels like that. Believe feels like a third or fourth season, Gundam song for Seed. Like, each of them very much fit, the point in time in the story that was happening, like the tone, they kind of reflect that, I would say, anyway. F-Zero was different in that it had just this one opening for, like, the 52 episodes, I think it went for, if I'm not mistaken. The 26 or 52, I can't remember. But yeah, it feel, and the fact that, of course, in the final episode with the, you know, legendary Watashi wa shinen, shinen zo Falcon Punch! You know, that might have even been, maybe that was the first time I heard it was from that clip, because of course that was like, you know, one of the most, you know, probably early viral YouTube videos in like, you know, 2005 or whatever it would have been. This is also a song that, funnily enough, I've always wanted to do an English cover of at some point. I wrote one, I want to say like a year ago, and I've never got around to actually recording it. But I'm hoping that maybe at some point in the future, maybe I'll get around to that someday if there's ever like a special occasion for it. But yeah, that's a big one. And actually, it's even particularly, it's a song that I feel would even be a good influence in the way that like I've had some other songs be influences and inspirations for some of the tome songs, like the different seasonal themes and the theme of the RPG and everything. This is one that I might even want to have as a reference for whatever I end up wanting to do with the theme song for Balancing Act at some point. Because it's very 2000s. I do really, really love the sound of 2000s anime openings. Sort of a runner-up that I'll throw out here because I've been giving a few of those. The opening to Elemental Jaleid, which I hadn't seen that show ever in my life until only a couple years ago. And the opening of it is so 2000s, technically anime, you know, kind of trance stuff or whatever. Love that one. There's something differently 2000s about Meeting of Truth, or Searching for Truth, as I like to call it. I almost can't believe the fact that I have no One Piece songs on this list, but I have a Naruto song, and I don't even like Naruto that much. But from a time when I was still into Naruto, and it was so ironic because it was by the time I wasn't following the show anymore, I gave up early on in Shippuden. I really, really wanted to keep getting into it, and then I followed the manga for a while, and then I was watching like the video game cutscenes, but the last point that I was semi-following what was going on with Naruto Shippuden was Shikamaru's big moment where he and the others are fighting against the Akatsuki. And of course, we're talking about Closer from Naruto Shippuden by Joe Inoue. Naruto does, in fact, have quite a few very, very good openings. I almost put, and I'm going to forget the full name of it, it's like Seishun something. It's got a long name, but it was during the Sasuke retrieval arc. Used to listen to that one a lot as I was finishing up high school and maybe going into early college. And you know, a few other ones I love, you know, Haruka Kanata and some of those, but and you know, Fighting Dreamers, you know, but Closer has something like really, it's almost like a sense of like desperation and like, you know, it's desperation and hope kind of almost at the same time. Like, it's right in the midst of when, like, you know, they're far enough into the story that really, really crazy, serious stuff is happening. And, like, the characters are all kind of in these desperate situations and trying their absolute best to fight back. And the fact that even in the opening they reflect this by having Shikamaru be such a, you know, core sort of part of it. Like, he's almost billed like more of a main character than Naruto is in the opening. Like, they knew that it was his time to shine. And you know, again, you know, giving a little bit of credit to the actual visuals of it. The part where they have that really stunning animation of Hidan and Kakuzu spinning their weapons around, that big, like you know, 360 kind of shot that's following them around, and them fighting against Asuma, Sarutobi, and all the other characters, and you know, that really dramatic shot of Shikamaru like running towards the camera, and you know, with tears in his eyes and everything. Like, I go back and I look at, that's another one where like I look at it and I kind of imagine, like, you know, inserting my own characters into the situation and imagining, like, you know, what kind of equivalents of different things that would be happening at that point. That goes back to the, you know, the inspiring you in a certain way. Sometimes it's also fun when, like, if you can imagine how characters from your own stuff can kind of fit into an opening, if it like sensibly, like you have places to put each of them kind of in there. Yeah, of all the many very good Naruto openings, Closer is definitely the one that I had to pick among all, and it's one that I go back. It's like all these songs, I go back to this and I listen to it, and it still gives me chills. It still gets me like emotional in a certain sense. So it had to win over any of the other ones from Naruto for that specific reason. Pretty sure that this may have been technically before Closer was airing, so this one might be a little bit slightly out of order, but another show that had so many amazing openings that I really do love all of. But my God, when Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood finally brought FMA back to the scene again, and it blasts onto the scene with its first episode with, again, from FMA Brotherhood by Yui. Man, what a way to come out of the gate. Because, you have, what was it, 4 or 5, I think, amazing openings from the first FMA series, even though the later stuff in the story goes a little weird. God almighty, those 3 shots of like Ed, Al, and Winry like kind of being affected with like that super quick fast. I can't even replicate it. I've never been able to replicate the super quick part of the singing. Yui is amazingly talented as a singer. I don't know if I know her work from any other songs. I might, for all I know. Just a great like opener, like possibly even maybe the best like first season opening, like for a show that has like multiple like openings, which I think Brotherhood had 5 over the course of the full show. I think that this series might have had the best first season opening, because it's just it just really gets you pumped, especially if you were a hardcore fan and you were like, all right, they're trying again. It's almost like they knew, like for that being the name of the song, I have to imagine that might have been part of it. But jumping right back into the show again, and also I remember this was one of the first shows that I was following legally, officially subbed as the episodes were coming out, because they were officially streaming them, I think, on the Funimation website at the time, which was kind of thankfully putting a stop to unnecessary fan subbing of the show at the time. I got a lot of nice memories of this one, and then funnily enough, for a very long time after this, I continued to watch tons and tons of anime. But thinking back to them, I really couldn't think of if there were any throughout that whole course of time that were like, top 10 levels of like, ooh, I love this, from all the shows that I watched from like, finishing up college, living still at home for a little while, and then eventually coming to LA, continuing to watch shows, continuing to get into things. And then even by the time that I started my voice career officially, weirdly enough, the next one, and I can't lie, it's going to be a little self-indulgent, but there had to be one of the 3 Mob Psycho openings on here. The next one, without question, it's 99.9 from Mob Psycho Season 2 by the Mob Choir. All 3 are great songs. They are legitimately just fantastic. And it was a very difficult choice to pick one of them, because I do love all of them for slightly different reasons, even though they're all kind of the same flavor, they're all the same artist and everything. But the second one, I think, is the absolute hypest. And that's very ironic coming from me, because I did do an English cover of the third one, mainly because it was relevant to the newest stuff at the time. But I truly felt that this one is the hypest. This definitely has to do with how cool the opening animation is itself, but I also do think that the song itself kicks ass. I think it's like the coolest of the 3 of them, even though loved the third one enough to do a cover of it, loved the first one, and absolutely was so happy that it plays in the big final, Reagan running scene that I recorded myself doing the Foley for and everything. But that last part during the chorus especially, where you see all the characters like kind of flying around this big crazy kind of city and everything, and all performing attacks, and the animation is just out of this world. But even the stuff leading up to that, like, all the characters doing the kind of funny dances and the strange kind of psychedelic stuff and everything, so cool. This is kind of a whole side note, but like often when I talk about, what are like all 10 out of 10, some of the best of the best of the best anime ever made, like in general, Mob is absolutely on that list without question, and the fact that all of its openings are fantastic, I think that's certainly a plus in that kind of thing. So yeah, this is definitely my favorite of the three of them. Again, I love them all. But listening to it again, it's no con. So even literally listening to it right now, it's hitting that scratching that kind of itch for me. So, but it was interesting to me that there were very few shows that were having themes that I want to go back and listen to this like 1,000 times and like really like get it so in my head or whatever. Like, again, there were great openings that I was listening to and other ones that I would go back and re-listen to and find like the full version of if I liked it enough that I wanted to hear it. In fact, if anything, I'm only surprised that My Hero Academia doesn't have one of those on there alongside One Piece, because those two shows have plenty of them that I really like and would listen to the full versions of. But they still weren't top 10, weirdly enough. I'm somewhat disappointed in myself for not being able to make room for them somewhere on here, but what are you gonna do? This one is very recent, even more recent than the Mob Psycho one. It is Good Morning World from Dr. Stone by Burnout Syndrome. This one's got a little bit of particular bias too, because Dr. Stone started airing during a time where I was very not doing okay emotionally in every sense of that description. And Dr. Stone was basically allowing me to... It was one of the things that was kind of helping me get through the day, because every episode I watched was like so inspirational and like, motivating me to not give up on life and to continue just, fighting as best as I could to, kind of get through, what I was going through at the time. And much like I've said about like matching the tone of the show itself, this song in particular, I think does that better than maybe most anime songs I've ever done, where sometimes it's just like let's just have a J-pop song in there, and if it's cool, and that's great, there's nothing wrong with that, but this inspires the same feeling of like, don't give up. It's no matter how desperate and bad of a situation you're in, there is hope. You can stand up, you can do something to fix the world, to fix everything around you, to fix your own life, to make things better. This song really captures that exact feeling the way that the show and the story of the show and the characters do. I would absolutely never, ever, ever skip this song no matter what, like every episode that I watched. And they brought it back for, I think it was the Shisui OVA, or maybe it was the season right before or after that, but they did like a special kind of like edition version of it, the Good Morning New World. And I count them both kind of the same thing, because they're both equally really good. But this was the most recent like new one that like absolutely made this list for me, because of just how inspirational it is. The full version is fantastic too, but and I guess I should, I never really mentioned, but all of these I love the full versions, and I love the TV size versions just as much. Because even sometimes they even kind of scratch different itches in a certain sense. Sometimes they'll have them edited in certain ways that, like they might end in a certain different kind of way, or they might start a different way. Or they might just be literally an expanded version of, what it is that you already know, and etc. You're just hearing the additional lyrics or whatever, whether you understand them or look up the translation or otherwise. So, Dr. Stone being the newest addition to this list. And funnily enough, the 10th and final one of all things is actually a potentially, no, I think it is literally the oldest one on this whole list. It is Pegasus Fantasy from Saint Seiya, the original Saint Seiya by Makeup. So Saint Seiya, or as I used to know it, Knights of the Zodiac, was not a show that I grew up with. I caught like a couple stray episodes of like the very first like Canadian edited dub. I think they played on Cartoon Network at some point, maybe. But I found out that I had many friends that grew up with this show and loved it very, very much. And by the time that we got the third dub of that show, which was the one that was on Netflix by the guys at Sentai Filmworks, that was my first exposure to like the show in kind of an extended basis, because Wes, my roommate, was when we were first starting to live together, he was like binging through like 100+ episodes of the show, and he showed me this song and this opening that went with it, and I immediately fell in love with it, and it became one of my absolute immediate favorite anime openings to a show that I've barely actually seen. I looked up every possible remix of it. I love the Saint Seiya Omega version of it, which is partially sung by a woman vocalist as well. I love the CG like remake Saint Seiya version of the song as well. Like every iteration of this I've ever heard is fantastic. And the opening itself also, definitely one of the best anime opening animations of all time. It's just like unbelievably iconic, all the different shots. They fulfill so many of those tropes that you would absolutely see in every anime opening ever thing. So loved that. And funnily enough also, another one that immediately became like something that I wanted to have as an influence on what would I would like to have be the balancing act opening as well. In that same kind of like childlike way that I mentioned, where like I imagine like how an opening would go in my head. The tune of this show, of this show's opening to the TV size of Pegasus Fantasy, I have in my head like a sort of proto like balancing act opening like sort of animation to it that is kind of like serving as a blueprint for what I would like for the eventual real one to be. So yeah, for this being a show that I'm not even actually like a fan of, I'm sure I would enjoy it if I actually started like watching it for real, which maybe I will someday, who knows. But yeah, for it being a show that I haven't actually experienced like in full, and having only really just heard the song in the last 5 years, yeah, it became an instant favorite. I'll also mention the very, very opening bit, the Saint Seiya! Because I learned about how beloved the Spanish dub is of the show, much like with Dragon Ball Z, I'll sometimes hear the Los Caballeros de Zodiac, like right before the rest of the vocals kick in, because apparently they dubbed that into the Spanish version of this opening. So, yeah, but there you go. There's 10. There's my top 10. Again, no order of favoritism, just top 10 in semi-chronological order of when I got big into them. So with that said, in the comments below, please, I would love to hear everybody, if you could even give me a top 10, I would love to see a top 10 list from y'all of what your favorite anime openings songs are. Again, they don't have to be the opening animations themselves, they can just be the song. But I would love to hear your lists. The folks in our community Discord server gave a whole bunch of different ones that they really enjoyed, and reminded me of a couple that I hadn't thought to include before that I absolutely needed to. So big thanks to all of them. But yeah, so to refresh, that's Chala Hedchala, Okay, Shuffle, Believe, The Meaning of Truth, Closer, Again, 99.9, Good Morning World, and Pegasus Fantasy. So that's my top 10 personal favorite. There's lots and lots of other ones that I didn't list at a 10. Try to give a bunch of other runner-up shout-outs. I love a bunch of the ones from My Hero, none of which, unfortunately, I can remember the names of, sadly. But lots of One Piece openings. The third opening to the Ace Attorney anime, which is Never Lose. That's a recent one that I also did like, but it wasn't top 10 for me, unfortunately, so it didn't quite make the cut. But there's so many good anime openings over the years, and hopefully many, many more to come. I'm excited to see the Daima opening as well, and I'm sure we'll probably be getting at least 10 more openings to the One Piece anime as it continues to go on. So, but thanks very much for listening. Stay tuned for the next one. Let me know your lists of your top 10 favorite anime openings, and can't wait to read them. So thanks, everybody, and have a great rest of your month. Take care.